Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share my knowledge of how to style the components with the React. Building web app with the React is not just about the composing components together and make sure that logic works correctly. But building React apps are also about styling those apps. Styling is also an important part of the building components. That's why I'll dive into how we can set up styles and conditional way or dynamic way. So let's get started. So we already prepared this one. I'm gonna show you how this work. For example, if I add learn React, if I click on it, it will add it to the list. And we can also delete the item by clicking on this. That's basically it. Now we are going to dive into styling. I'm gonna show you another things. Even if we didn't enter anything, if I click on it, so as you can see, so the result that we add an empty element here. So we want to avoid this, and we also want to give the user some feedback or some warning. That's something we will be now. So how to avoid this? So let's go back to the VS Code. And the course and put component, we added this line. If enter value dot trim, we use trim methods to remove white space at the beginning and at the end. Dot length equal to 0. It's me. User enter nothing. It will stop. It will not add anything. It's not go with this line. So let's go back to browser. Have a look at this. Refresh browser. So if we put nothing, click on it, as you can see, it's not added anymore. Now we can add empty goals. This works, but we don't give the user any feedback or warning. That's exactly where we need our styling. So we want to add a red border and a slightly red background and put free into that label if the user enters something invalid here. So how do we do that? So let's go back to VS Code. So for that, we set another use state here. Let's say we trust the user. So set this to true. And we call the set values here and set this to false. So and let's try first the label. So to style it here. So we set the style, use the curly braces, this color. We use the ternary operator here. So it's me and valid. If user enter and valid anything, turn red. Else turn black. Let's have a look browser. Now refresh this, and now user enter nothing. So click on it. So as you can see, it's turned red. Let's try the input field. Let's go back to the VS Code. And this input field, I want to change the background or border colors and the background color. In this inline style, I set the style, so two curly braces. We written like this. This is not CSS file. This is a JavaScript property name. So that's why we use a comma case version. So if a user enter anything invalid, turn red, else turn black. Background color, if user enter anything invalid, turn certain color transparent. So let's have a look at the browser. Refresh this, and we enter nothing. So click on it. As you can see, it's turned red and certain color. But if we enter something, so as you can see, it's still red. So it should be reset. So we still need to work on that. So let's go back to the VS Code. We write two lines of code. We just need to check if the event target values, which is under the text, we trim it and length is greater than 0. It's me. If we enter something, we set it back to true. Let's go back to the browser, refresh it, and enter nothing, one side. So if I enter something, yeah, as soon as I start typing, it's get back to the normal. So which alternative could we have to set the inline styles? So what if we could add a new CSS class to this div which hold both label and input? So we will add this class dynamically only if the value entered is invalid. That could be something like an invalid class here. So the name is totally up to you. So this invalid class should be sometime be added here on this div. So and then in the CSS component, so we could prepare a fitting style like this. So for example, we could say if the font control also have the invalid class, make sure there's no space between, which means both they both have to be on the same element. So we could also target input and set the border color to red, background color to this rose color, and the font control also have the invalid class. We could also target the label and set color to red. So all we need to do for these two CSS rules to have an effect is we need to add that invalid class dynamically. If we go back this, so we don't need it anymore. We get rid of this and this one as well. So what I did here is I changed this class dynamically. So for dynamic value, we need curly braces like this. So we use a nice construct. We use a backtick here. So this is a default JavaScript feature. It's called template letter. This constructs a string, but we have a backtick here. Whatever you type between here will be treated as a regular string. So we added font control here, and we also inject dynamic value into that string with a special syntax which looks like this, $sign and curly braces. This add contains into the string what you pass between these curly braces can be any JavaScript expression. So here we check if its value is not true, we insert invalid class, else we enter nothing. Refresh this, so we enter nothing, click on it, as you can see. So if we enter something, so as you can see, it's work the same. So currently we have a CSS component file, and we imported this CSS file into our component files for styling purpose. But it does not result in this styles be scoped to this component only. This means if we, for example, if we use the same class name by mistake somewhere else, anywhere else, this will affect it, because this by default these styles are not scoped. So what if we want to avoid this? There are various ways of avoiding this, but I want to show you the two most popular approach. Approach number one is to use a package called style component. This style component package help you build components have certain style attached to them, where the styles really only affect the components to which they were attached and not any other components. To get started, we need to install that package. For that, this is the command we need to run. Paste in here and run it. So you will see here, so you see this package has been installed. So how do we use this package? So let's say we want to style our button. So we already had a button component, but we only created this button component because we want to have some default style for button. Nothing wrong with this approach. But here we could also use the install style components package to achieve this. How do we do that? We rebuild our button here by creating new constant button, and we import a style from the style component which is available now, and we added style.button and add the backticks here. This is called temporary letter. This is a default JavaScript feature. This is non-specific to this package, non-specific to React. So we don't need this CSS as well. This button is a method of this style object. So this is a special kind of method we could say. So what we did here, between two backticks, we copy all the style from here to there. This return button, so this button does not have a class of button, so we need to get rid of this. And here we need to add and say it's me button. This button have a pseudocode applied to the style. The same as well here. We need to get rid of this and add like this inside. So we don't need this import React because we are not dealing with a JSX file anymore. So save it. So refresh this. So as you can see, it works exactly the same. We could also use a style component when we want to set up something dynamic. Style components can be very useful. We can also use them our div here. So we can also create it in that file. We can have multiple components per file if a component is only getting used in that file. So I create a brand new components in this file. So far we have one component per file. So the same as before, we import a style from the style component. So this name is up to you. So use style.div because we're gonna style the div, this div. So we use backtick, and between the backtick we copy all the style from here and paste it here. Just as before, we got rid of the letters and we put the end sign here, and we rub with the font control here, and we need to get rid of this. So we also need to change something here. So we don't need this. We don't need font control anymore, and we don't need this. And gonna put n. So it's invalid. But add the invalid class here. So save it and refresh it. As you can see, it's work exactly the same as before. So we can also use another feature provided by style components. So we can also add the props to our style components and use these props inside of these backticks. So inside of our style to easily change the style dynamically. So what we did here in the form control, we add the invalid. The name is up to you. We set that not true. It's me false. So we use this invalid props between these two backticks. So for example, if we want to change border color, so we receive the props as a parameter. We call the arrow key function. This function is called by the style component package. So we pass a props value is true, is turn red, as turn this color, and the border color as well. We receive the props, and we this true, yeah, and value is true. We turn this color as transparent. So we set a label as well. We need label color. That's what we set this props, and it's like true, turn red, as turn black. So we don't need this one anymore. There's another thing I want to mention. That would be a media query. Media query is our important thing as well. So if you look at this, so mobile device, it looks okay. For example, if you want to change this one to expand from here to there, so what we're gonna do it? So what we did here, we just add the media query here. So main width, for example, 760 px. So this is for our big devices, non-mobile devices. So we just put the style into that media query that should affect this element when the condition is met. So if media query is not met, it can be set with 100%. So as you can see, it's auto. Yeah, that's it. So we can also take the CSS to the next level. This feature is called CSS module. CSS module is a feature which is only available in a project that are configured to support it, because it needs a code transformation that needs to be done before your code runs in the browser. The good thing is, through a project created with the create react, which we use, are already configured to support CSS module. So how do we use CSS modules? What we did here is an button component. So we imported React because we are dealing with the JSX. So we imported CSS file like this because we need to change a file name by adding module like this. So and we imported button.module, as you can see. So this name is up to you. So you can give any name you want. And we refer to this style things, and this thing turns out to be an object. And this object, we have every class we define and our file as a property. If we added the button class here and the CSS file, we now have a button property here. That's all we need to do. And so as you can see, it works exactly the same as before. So I'm going to use this concept and course import as well. That's why I changed the name, course import dot by adding module. And so now I imported the style from course import module.css. We don't need this one, so I go to comment out this one. So that's why I need to change the form control to back to div. And I added class name here, and we use different syntax because form control is an invalid property name, because we use form control class. So this is an invalid property name. That's why we use different syntax, and we use backtick to create the string. So the first value I want to inject is to resolve the class name, and we need to add additional class name because we got invalid class. So if invalid is not true, so we add this invalid class. So as you can see, it's work exactly the same. For the media query, we added like this. So this is for bigger screen. We set with the auto, and so for small devices, with this 100%. And refresh. So as you can see, it works. That's all.